What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 144 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Batman Beyond, 10,000 Clowns. This collects material from the digital Batman Beyond series, issues 1 through 13, and it is by Adam Beechin and Norm Breyfogle. Norm Breyfogle was a guy who was drawing Batman in the 80s and early 90s, and I really like his art. He is a guy who has talked about how much he loved drawing Batman's cape, and how much he loved playing with that, and making it look very surreal and almost cartoonish, and it's very interesting to see him working on Batman Beyond, where this character does not have a cape. But his style works very well here. It's not the DC Animated Universe style, which is what I am used to seeing Batman Beyond done in, and his style is very different from Ryan Benjamin's style, which we saw in Hush Beyond, but I really like his art here. It works very well here, and I was not ever going to say, if you had asked me which artist I would say I could expect to see on a Batman Beyond series, I never would have said Norm Breyfogle, but his art works very well here, and I like it quite a bit. I was pleasantly surprised because I do like his art in the late 80s, early 90s. I never would have thought that he would have worked on a series like Batman Beyond. But this story, I will say right off the bat, I think it's a step up from Hush Beyond because it is not taking one of Bruce Wayne's villains and updating them for the modern day. This is taking the Joker's gang from the Batman Beyond cartoon series, which was, they were a threat throughout the entire series, but they were never a major threat. They were always just kind of a background threat, and here it turns them into a major threat. And I think that this story works very well in doing that. This also does something that the old 60s Spider-Man comics do, where you'll have Peter Parker fighting one of his bad guys as Spider-Man, like the Vulture or Electro or something like that, but then he also has Peter Parker problems, like his Aunt May is sick, or his girlfriend's been asking, hey, where have you been lately, or Flash Thompson is giving him a swirly, or something like that. He has a lot of personal problems that he's having to deal with, while also dealing with his superhero life, and here we get a lot of that in terms of connecting his life as Terry McGinnis to his life as Batman, and I really like seeing that, and also I feel like Dana is maybe sympathetic for the first time ever in this book. I very, very rarely liked the character of Dana from the cartoon. Here, she starts off being very unlikable like she was in the cartoon, but by the end of the book, I like her a lot more than I did. And that is something I never, ever thought that I would say, and so I will give my highest kudos to this book for actually making Dana a little bit sympathetic. Also, we have Max, who is Terry's confidant and friend from the cartoon. She has her own little subplot going on here that doesn't really connect with any of the rest of the book, and I'm assuming that that will actually come back into play later in another Batman Beyond story. I'm not sure which story that it will come back into play in, but I'm assuming probably the one that comes immediately after this one, if I had to guess. But that's something that I feel like it kind of drags on a little bit because this is not a short book. It's kind of a long book, and throughout this entire thing, we keep seeing Max kind of agonizing over this subplot that she's involved in, and then it ultimately never really goes anywhere by the end of this book. Also, we have this little point in this book where the story kind of stops and we get a new character introduced, and he's a really interesting character. It's an updated version of the Vigilante from the old DC comic character Vigilante. There's actually been 2 or 3 versions of that character, but here we have a version of him from the Beyond universe, and he has an incredibly interesting backstory. I don't think I've ever seen a superhero with this kind of origin. It's very interesting to see. It does do a little bit of retconning of stuff from the cartoon series, and I'm not sure if I'm okay with that or if I don't like it, because it's, at the very least, it's adding stuff to the cartoon series. It's not necessarily taking something away. There is something that was said in one of the first episodes of Batman Beyond that is actually altered here just a little bit for the sake of this character's origin. But since this is such an interesting backstory for this character, I think I'm okay with it, and I'm just going to let it slide. And I'm very, very interested to see what is going to happen when Terry McGinnis finds out about this guy's backstory. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let you figure out what this guy's backstory is if you read this book. And I do think that you should read this book. I think that this is, in just about every way, a marked improvement over Hush Beyond. I think that that was just those guys trying to figure out what they were going to do with Batman Beyond, and then once they did figure it out, they were able to do a story like this, which I think is very good, and I am definitely interested in reading more from this series. The stuff that I haven't been able to read, like I don't have, there's a story that takes place in between Hush Beyond and this one that's called Industrial Revolution, and I haven't read that one. I do want to seek that one out and find it now, since I enjoyed this one so much. So that's about all that I have to say about 10,000 Clowns. I hope that you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different kind of video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.